can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in
Okay.
this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
Right. Okay. So joining us now is legal legend Alan Dershowitz. He's also the host of the great podcast, The Dersh Show, and an author of The Case for Colorblind Equality in an Age of Identity Politics. Also not a biologist. Professor Alan Dershowitz, welcome to America Right Now.
Well, thanks, but it's the Republican legislatures that can't define women. Some of them say if somebody has low testosterone and has converted and become a woman, she can play sports. Others, like Florida and others, say, no, she's not a woman, even though she lives her life as a woman. So the definition of who's a woman is very difficult today legally, and it's likely to come before the courts. I think that was a cheap shot question, and I think it's a cheap shot to condemn her for not being able to define woman at a time when politicians have a very, very hard time defining women. Things change. When I was a kid, it was obvious who a man was and who a woman was. Today, with transgenders, it's become a much more difficult issue, and she was right to say that she can't make that definition in this context.
See, political talking points aside, I think that it's very easy to define a woman. It's an XY chromosome or an XX chromosome. I'm also not a biologist, but my concern with this, Professor, is that she is an appointee to the highest court in the land who's supposed to look at the facts and the data. Facts and data. Look, you can, if you want to call yourself a woman and do that, it's America. Feel free, okay? But at the same time, when you're supposed to be one of 9 justices ruling on potential 14th Amendment rights cases like civil rights, like female rights that might be a discrimination suit or something like that, which there are a number that come across these dockets. Are you a little concerned that if she's not willing to define what a woman is, then she might not be able to argue 14th Amendment protections for or against them?
No, I would be concerned if she took the opposite view. If she said, I know what a woman is. A woman is somebody born with certain chromosomes. No, that would be wrong. She would be prejudging the case. You have to see what the context is, whether the context is athletics, where there's an argument. There's an argument. I don't agree with it. There's an argument that somebody who 2 years ago, like that swimming champ, changed from a muscular man to a woman and, yes, had enough reduction in testosterone to qualify, whether she should or he should be able to beat out people who were born women and women all their lives. That's one context. Another context would be if somebody were appointed to the Supreme Court, the most qualified person in the world appointed to the Supreme Court, who was transitioned, who had transitioned one way or the other. How would you define them, as a woman or as a man? These are changing issues, and I think she's right to show the complexity of this, and it's not a disqualification for being on the Supreme Court. Neither is her view of sentencing. Sentencing cases don't come before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court doesn't sentence. Look, she will be confirmed. She will be confirmed probably with a couple of Republican votes. The interesting question that the media hasn't been focusing on is, what if there are no Republican votes and it's 50-50? Does the Constitution permit a lifetime appointment to go to a Supreme Court justice based on a tie vote that's broken by a member of the executive branch that nominated her? That's a difficult question.
That's interesting. That actually is a great question. I think to solve this, we should all watch the movie Kindergarten Cop and watch what was said in there and how a young boy defines a man and a woman. Alan Dershowitz, thank you very much for joining us, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right.